Hi there, this is Ranjit, and in this video let's do the full review of this Realme XT, and I have been actually testing this one for more than 7 days, so I'll divide it between the pros and cons. What do I like about this one and what do I do not like? And this is actually very close to the Realme X that I had reviewed earlier, but again the big thing is that now this one comes with the quad camera setup and the 64 megapixel camera sensor. But before we proceed between the pros and cons, let's talk about the specs. This Realme XT is having a 6.4 inch Super AMOLED screen, and it's protected by Gorilla Glass 5. It comes in 4, 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, and we have that great quad camera setup with that 64 megapixel, 8 megapixel wide, 2 megapixel depth and 2 megapixel for macro, and other specs are on the screen as you can see for your reference. So let's break it down between the pros and cons. Let's first talk about the pros. And the first thing that you'll notice is the screen on this one. This has that 6.4 inch screen, and now we are having that AMOLED screen. Hence, the viewing angles are also nice on this one. We do have that notch, but again, I don't mind it. Personally, I feel I'm okay with these notches rather than mechanical parts that move around. So again, the screen quality is actually really good on this one. The colors are produced accurately on this one. I don't have a problem. Generally, we just go with it's an AMOLED screen, but this one is actually a good quality AMOLED screen that they have put. And as it's an AMOLED screen, this one also has that in-display fingerprint scanner, and as you can see, it is really fast. In fact, I would say this in-display fingerprint scanner, for my very rough testing, I noticed that it is even faster than the Realme X. So again, a very fast in-display fingerprint scanner. As you can see, just tap it and it unlocks. So again, that's also a good thing. Now coming to the brightness also, here I like the fact that the screen is actually pretty bright. Again, as you can see, I'm indoors, I'm just lowering the brightness. It's very bright, and if you keep it on auto brightness, even in outdoor conditions, it's easily visible. So again, I don't have a problem. And moving towards the back, earlier with the Realme devices, we also always had a problem that it was plastic polycarbonate. This one is actually glass, and this is actually Gorilla Glass. But again, if you look at it, it looks like plastic, but it's actually glass. We also have that in-display fingerprint scanner, as I've told you. And technically, if you might have noticed, it does have that always on screen. It's not known as always on screen, but you have that. By default, it's not enabled, but you can enable it if you go to the settings and if you go to display. If you go to display and brightness, here it has this funny name. Actually, screen off clock it's called, and you have to enable it. But again, this is not a full-fledged always on. I'll talk about that in the con section, but yes, you do have this, and I would suggest if you're buying this phone, enable this, because it also shows you when you pick up the phone where is that in-display fingerprint scanner, so it really helps you. But again, let's move on. And now if we talk about the headphone jack, it has a headphone jack, 3.5mm headphone jack, and I did test it quite a bit with various headphones and even Realme earphones, and I have to say the audio output that you're getting via the headphone jack is actually really good, and the volume level goals are also actually really high on this one. So again, no problems with the 3.5mm headphone jack. And I did also test this one with quite a few Bluetooth headset, for example the Mi Bluetooth headset, even the Realme's own wireless Bluetooth headset and stuff, and again I had no problems. The Bluetooth connectivity is solid on this, and I had no issues. So again, in that respect also, you don't have to worry. Now, as we're talking about the sound, let's talk also about the speaker. It has just a single speaker here at the bottom, as you can see, but again, it is actually really loud. So again, in most instances, I never had to keep the volume level more than 75%. It's actually really loud, but again, a single speaker. So again, in terms of volume also, you don't have to worry. Now moving to the general UI, again, is typical color OS. So you have that. We also have an app tree on this, and as it's running on the Snapdragon 12 chipset, again, no issues regarding lag. I never noticed any lag or anything, and I'm using this full touch UI, and again, as you can see, I have tons and tons of apps in memory, and I never had a problem with this one. These are the gestures. You can always have that regular one, but I have enabled these gestures because earlier I was using the Pixel, so got used to that. They're very similar to that. So again, in terms of usage and RAM management also has been done well on this one. I did not have a problem with that. So in those aspects, it's actually good. But again, the base variant is for 4 gigabytes. I would suggest, as it's a custom skin, opt for the 6 gigabyte RAM variant. That would be a better investment, because obviously the Android 10 will also come on this, and you're noticing that Android is becoming heavier and heavier. But again, nevertheless, the RAM management is fine, and general usage was not a problem because of the Snapdragon 712 chipset. Now moving to the battery life, this has a 4000 milliamp hour battery, and again, like earlier, some of the Realme devices that came with the Snapdragon 712 chipset, even the battery life on this one was actually really good. As you can see from the charts, you can get a screen on time anywhere between about 5.5 to about 8 hours easily, and if you're sort of a casual user, it can easily last you for about 1.5 days. And also I like the fact that now finally Realme has started to give us SOT times in the battery stats. Earlier they never used to do that, so I'm happy about that. So battery life is not an issue, and also in the box you'd get that VOOC fast charger, so again it charges pretty quickly, so no issues regarding that. Now moving to gaming, again it's having the Snapdragon 712 SoC, and I did play some games just for testing, Asphalt and PUBG, and it ran fine. Now the big thing about this device is the rear cameras that we have, and that quad camera setup with that 64 megapixel. So again, yes, I would say again with the 64 megapixel, if you take regular shots, it's going to use pixel binning. For example, most of the 48 megapixel do that. It's indirectly a 12 megapixel image. On this, it's a 16 megapixel image, but you do have an option of going all the way to that 64 megapixel mode if you really want, ultra 64. But again, I didn't see a huge difference when I was using this, but the file sizes actually became very big. With the regular shot, where with 64 it does pixel binning and it's a 16 megapixel, the image size was about 5 to 6 megabyte, but in that 64 mega it was going about 19 to 20 MB. The only big difference that I would say I noticed from 48 megapixel to the 64 is that sometimes when you zoom in, you have a little bit more detail. But anyways, here are some of the sample shots that I have taken with this Realme XT, and again, as you can see, in outdoor conditions, as we expected, it did a good job. The color reproduction was good. Even human subjects, as you can see, it did a good job. And the good thing is that even in artificial lighting conditions, again, as you can see, it did produce some pretty good results. Even skin tones were produced nicely, and you also have that portrait bokeh effects and all those things. So in terms of a camera, I would say the camera is actually good on this one. But again, if you're expecting a huge difference from the 48 megapixel, that's not the case. Now moving to the front facing camera, it's a 16 megapixel over here, and again, as you can see, even with the front facing camera, the performance was good, and even in artificial lighting conditions, I feel the camera was doing actually a pretty good job. And now for some video samples that I've shot with this one. We're shooting this video with the Realme XT, and I'm using it handheld, and I'm just walking, guys, to give you an idea how is the stabilization. And here I've kept it to actually 1080p, but you can actually even take it up to 4K. Shooting this video with the front facing camera of the Realme XT, and I'm recording it at 1080p, and this claims to have electronic image stabilization even with the front facing camera. Hence, as you can see, I'm just walking around. So this should give you an idea how will be the video recording if you shoot video like this, that is vlogs type video. So these were the good things about this Realme XT. Now let's move to the cons, and frankly speaking, I didn't find a lot of cons, but let's come back to that always on display that we have. Yes, it lights up like this, I don't have a problem, but this is hardly functional. It just shows this, and if you just get a missed call or something, a phone icon comes, but apart from that, it simply does not show you any notification. So technically for me, yes, it's there, but it's sort of useless. I just hope Realme with an update adds notifications icons on this one. That would make this one way more useful. For example, like they did with the screen on time earlier, Realme phones never used to show us proper screen on time. So I hope they add that functionality with the update. Next thing is that we have that wide angle lens, and yes, you can take wide angle photographs with this one. This is regular, this is wide angle, but the thing is that for some strange reason, they haven't enabled the video recording as of now with that wide angle lens. I don't know why, but that is sort of missing. One thing I have to say is that Realme and some of the Oppo phones earlier used to have problem with the slow motion. That is fixed. So I hope they fix some of these flaws that I'm mentioning. For example, with the always on display, then improving that wide angle in video, they should enable. Now, as we are talking about the cameras, as you can see, it has that quad camera, and they have placed this on the side. So whenever you place it on the desk like this, as you can see, it wobbles. This doesn't personally affect me, but again, you are someone who likes to type while it's on the desk, then again, as you can see, it's going to irritate you. And moving to the camera setup, again, we also have that 2 megapixel macro lens on this one, which is used for close-up shot, but I frankly feel as of now it's not doing that great job. Apart from that, it's a very functional device. The only con I would say is that Realme is now, as you can see, these icons, they are sort of pushing this. They have this called hot games or whatever, and when you click on that, they're trying to push their own store to download apps, and I feel that's sort of unnecessary because we already have Google Play Store. If a user really wants to download the apps, they will use this. So I don't like the fact that they are sort of now pushing this one. But apart from that, I would say this was a very functional device. I have used it with my primary SIM and the secondary SIM for almost 9 days now, and I did not have a problem. Okay, completely forgot about it. Moving to the earpiece, also the earpiece call quality was good. I had no problems, and also in reception here in Hyderabad, I used it with Airtel and Jio. Again, I did not have a problem. Similar to the Realme X or the Realme 5 Pro that I had reviewed. In the network reception and call quality, that was the same situation. I got this question earlier. Some of you were asking me on Twitter, which one should you go for, the Realme X or the Realme XT? I would say if you really want that pop-up camera, then you can go with the Realme X. But if you don't care about the pop-up camera, like I personally don't care, then I feel the Realme XT might be a better bet, because this Realme XT starts at about 16,000, and for that you get that 4 gigabytes of RAM. But as I mentioned, it's ideal to go with 6 gigabytes of RAM if you want to future-proof yourself, because the next version of Android will come. Apps are getting heavier and heavier these days, and that is at about 17,000, and with that you get 6 gigabytes of RAM and 64 GB of storage. But I would say the 64 GB of storage, you might say, is a little bit less, but the thing is that this also has a dedicated micro SD card slot. So I feel instead of the base variant, go with the 6 gigabyte RAM variant. So overall, I would say still a very practical smartphone. That was my review of the Realme XT. Again, as I've told you, it's very similar to the Realme 5 Pro, and the Realme X sort of sits in the middle. Anyways, guys, that's it for now for my review of this Realme XT. If you guys are still not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care, guys.